So welcome everyone, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon. This is Natalie Ashdown here with you from the Open Door Coaching Group, and I'm hosting this webinar, and I'm very excited to be hosting this webinar with Squadron Leader Anita Green. And today we're talking about coaching as a fundamental enabler of transformation and empowerment at Air Force. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians of the land on which we meet today and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community of Australia. We pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present and emerging. And I wanted to just introduce you to our fabulous speaker today, Squadron Leader Anita Green. We've known each other for quite some time, and Anita has been spearheading the coaching programs at Air Force, along with a great team of people who have been enabling Air Force at coaching, enabling coaching at Air Force. She's an executive coach, a conflict coach, a mediator, a trainer, and a HR specialist for the Royal Australian Air Force. Her passion is to improve the human dynamics in workplaces, leading to resilient, effective, and innovative people who enjoy their work and doing it well. Anita, as I just mentioned, has managed the coaching program since 2016, and she works collaboratively with Air Force Adaptive Culture Team and Air Command coaching to deliver the programs. And the program supports the development of Air Force people via coaching, team coaching, which she's going to tell us all about, and providing support to the Air Force units so that we can integrate coaching into the way we do business. Anita is on the line with us today, all the way from the UAE. She's on the other side of the world. It's early in the morning there, and she's been living there with her husband and her son for the last 2 years and driving Air Force cultural change from afar whilst working on remote platforms, etc. So, Anita, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've got some hands up and some people saying hello to you from Air Force Base in Edinburgh, saying good afternoon, ma'am. So, hello, Sarah. Thank you. I've passed that on. It's so wonderful to have you on the line.
Hi, Natalie. Thanks so much for having me here for to celebrate International Coaching Week with Open Door Coaching.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to be looking today, and you're going to be sharing us some really wonderful information about what's happened at Air Force around coaching. We're going to be talking about the empowerment that you've introduced at every level, the Air Force coaching journey, the goals of coaching in Air Force, using the coaching cultural framework to take a look at what's happening at Air Force, the achievements and the challenges. So we've got a lot to share, and I'm just really looking forward to sitting back and learning from you. So we'll also be learning about why coaching works at Air Force and how it works. So thank you very much. Let me hand over to you to learn from you, and we'll kick off perhaps. Anita, you can share with us about the empowerment at every level and what's happening at Air Force from that perspective.
Yeah, sure, Natalie. Thanks. So, look, what we created at Air Force is a coaching program that empowers people at every level of the organisation. So, no matter what their rank, their gender, their job, or their location, everyone's got the opportunity and encouragement to be coached, to learn coaching skills, and to influence within their own environments. So, it's a really inclusive program, which I think has been part of its success. Now, I would like to acknowledge that, like you said at the start, that so I work with the Adaptive Culture team, and I also work collaboratively with the Air Command coaching team. But I didn't start the program, so I want to acknowledge that there's a few people that set the wheels in motion for the program that did a fantastic job to create the framework and give it some really good legs so it was successful. So I'd just like to thank Paul Webb, Steve Johnston and Shelley Madron, who were rocks for the program at the start, and the success that it's got today is based on all of the hard work they put in at the start.
And
so
so go on, Anita. Thank you.
Yeah, so what the program actually does, so in the last 5 years, it's grown from an idea into a fairly robust program. So like you see on the screen, like the components of what makes up our program is, well, firstly, it's a passionate network of about 200 coaches. And then those coaches go out and they're there to coach other people around Air Force. Like I said, no matter what rank, gender, job, they're there for everyone. we've also upskilled them so that they can facilitate one-day group training sessions. So the idea of those one-day workshops is so that people have the skills and the techniques and the attitudes so that they can conduct coaching style conversations across Air Force. And that's a big winner for us. So we've had 53% of the Air Force have participated in those workshops, which I think is massive. And those people have got the coaching, hopefully the coaching mindset, but some basic skills so that they can change their conversations every day around workforce, which is ultimately how we create really great cultural change. Other things they do is they go out and in pockets, they've been doing team coaching. And a lot of them, like I said, they're really passionate network of people. So a lot of those coaches are the ones that have influenced coaching integration into our training schools across Air Force. And a particular one has gone out and improved our performance reporting system. So, you know, the annual performance reporting that most people have to do in organizations. So it's now focused, it now has a coaching integration. So it talks people through their goals, their options, and it really empowers the people with coaching style conversations throughout that performance report. It's fantastic. Now, later in the webinar, Nat and I will be talking about what made the program successful, but some food for thought as we start. It's been a really deliberate balancing act between having the right structure and empowering those great coaches that we have out there. So it's been a really deliberate, important part of the success.
And in doing that, Anita, you're actually influencing the culture of the Air Force as you go along with the individual coaching, the team coaching, and the coaching conversation workshops that you're having.
We're trying to target everyone in Air Force through all of those components. So it's not just targeting a certain group and offering coaching to, you know, senior executives, for example. We're targeting everyone across Air Force so that we can really make a difference to Air Force.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned that there was the Air Force has actually been on a coaching journey, and it started quite a few years ago, actually, before you and I met. And you mentioned a couple of those people that took those tentative steps to look at what coaching might look like at Air Force. So would you mind taking us back to some of those, we're going back, I can't believe how we're going back to 2012 actually. So we're going back a few years, but talk about the impotence perhaps around coaching at Air Force and you know, what New Horizons and etc. actually did for Air Force there.
Yeah, sure. So back in 2012, Air Force launched its cultural intent statement, which they called New Horizon. And also the new Air Force values were released at the same time. So New Horizon was all about values-based leadership, how to create a learning organisation, and to give people pride in Air Force and ownership over the outcomes, including a few other things. So the adaptive culture team that I work very closely with, they're responsible as the cultural change agents for Air Force to implement strategies to achieve New Horizons and a range of other Air Force strategies. So, you know, the team at the time considered quite a few different ways to help support and develop the strategy. And coaching was chosen because it appeared to be a really simple and effective way to empower the individuals, the team, and the whole of the organisation. So it was thrown out there as an idea. And one of the team members at the time went off to, I think it was Melbourne with yourself, Natalie. And Paul went off and did the Cert 4 in workplace and business coaching. He found it was a really great program. So he came back and he influenced funding for 2 more people from the team to go and do the Cert 4. He then went on to complete the diploma in workplace coaching, and that gave the whole team the framework and the steps to be able to embed coaching into Air Force culture. So from there, they hatched a plan, and in 2015, they sought approval from Deputy Chief of Air Force to establish the coaching program and to fund it. From there, I wasn't there yet, but the teams created the first in-house Cert 4 workplace and business coaching course, which was delivered at RAF Base Glenbrook in May 2015. And that's where I met you, Natalie. So I was on the first course that Air Force run for where we had 16 people all turn up to an Air Force base and completed the Cert 4.
I remember it.
So,
We had a really, I remember that was my really first great experience at coaching at Air Force. And I remember just what a great bunch of people. And like we had a lot of fun. Like there was a lot of, we were doing some great coaching. And at the same time, we had quite a lot of laughs along the way. We're lucky we didn't do the second course, actually. That's when there was a dead possum in the roof and they had to evacuate the room. So we're lucky that you're on the first course, not the second course.
it was a really great course. And like you say, there was a lot of really great people. And that's what has made the program successful, is that we chose really great people from the start, and people that were passionate and dedicated, and also people that had a lot of influence around Air Force. So we chose some people that were really great influencers and were decision makers in important parts of the Air Force. We chose people that we thought would be great coaches, and we chose some people that we thought would be great coaching facilitators to run the one-day workshops. And then other people are there because they're a really perfect mix of all three areas. So we chose well from the start.
And I might mention actually that when you say you chose, it wasn't actually tapping people on the shoulder. It was actually an expression of interest. So people had to put in an expression of interest, which was way oversubscribed. And then from that, you looked at the right people to actually, who were going to be the champions of coaching at the time.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, so we selected people so we put out an expression of interest, and that went out to everyone in Air Force. And then we had a panel interview where 16 people were chosen, and yeah, there was every time we were well oversubscribed, like you say. So there was lots of really great interest. I've got to say, even 5 years on, we're still getting inquiries every day about when's the next course, when can we get on it. We've heard so much, so many wonderful things about it. Some people were tapped on the shoulder, so we did identify key influences around Air Force, and we tapped them on the shoulder, and it wasn't a direction, but we invited them and encouraged them to come and join the program. And most of them jumped at it because I could see it was a really great opportunity.
Fantastic.
So the current state is we've got 208 trained coaches. We've also got, let me see, probably about 15 people or so that have done coaching training outside of our in-house program. And they've got a qualification and a passion. So they've asked to join the program. And once we have a chat with them and make sure they've got the right coaching mindset, we invite them into the program, and they become one of our coaches across the network. So we've got extras that, that have coaching skills and want to be part of it.
You were talking about earlier about the goals around coaching. So I've put it up on the slide here. Would you like to talk us through what the goals of the program were originally as well?
Oh yeah, so our original intent was that we would create a coaching culture across Air Force. Now, we changed our language slightly last year. So we thought more about it, and we went, Air Force has one overarching culture, and coaching has a really important place within that. So we changed our language, although the intent is pretty much the same. So our current intent in Air Force leadership coaching is to create, maintain, and support a culture in Air Force where personnel use coaching techniques to empower themselves, those around them, and to be agile in thought, innovative, resilient, self-aware, and empowered to drive change and manage complexity. So some of those keywords there, so agile, innovative, resilient, self-aware, and empowered, and a few others, they're all keywords taken from Air Force strategy. So what Air Force coaching does is support and develop the higher level Air Force strategies that are out there. So we've got, when we get to the coaching culture framework, we'll see that it's, the program directly links in with high level strategies.
Absolutely. Thank you. So that's a great segue actually into the coaching framework. Thank you. And this is the latest version of Open Doors Coaching Cultural Framework. And I know we've spent a lot of time actually discussing where Air Force is at and what Air Force has done across the framework. And actually a lot of the conversations I've had with Air Force have actually shaped the new way we think about the framework. And for those of you that haven't been exposed to it, it's about the top part of the framework is the strategy, the setup. They're those things that we might focus on in the setup and the strategy of coaching. And then we think about the bottom half of it as being the enablers, or things that we would do to implement coaching into an organisation. And the glue is our leadership skills, our coaching principles, the passions that we have for coaching as well. So Anita, I'd be really keen to hear your thoughts about the different dimensions from an Air Force point of view around the coaching culture framework.
Yeah, so Nat, like I said at the start, so our program success has been a really deliberate balancing act between the structure and empowerment of our people. So when it comes to the structure, it's pretty essential that you get the foundations right. You know, you can't build a great table with wobbly legs, so you need that great foundation. So way back at the start, back in 2014-ish, so Paul went and completed the diploma, and between him, Steve and Shelley, that team created the foundation for the Air Force Leadership Coaching Program. So it had, you know, great, strong structural legs from the start. So some of their initial considerations were that they had senior leadership buy-in. They really wanted the senior leadership team of Air Force to know what the benefits of coaching were. And they did this via linking in with some of the senior leadership events across Air Force, like senior leadership team meetings, senior enlisted leadership team meetings, commanders calls. They worked with people at all levels to try and get the buy-in and influence people in those key positions. And it was successful. They really thought about, do our coaches need a qualification? So, and if they need a qualification, what type? So, you know, do we have coaches that have in-house training? Or do we give them a Cert 4? Do we give them, you know, what do we need to give them? It was decided to give them a qualification and a Cert 4 for a few different reasons. The Cert 4 program is an ICF accredited program, and that was highly important for us. So it gives the program credibility, and it makes sure that our coaches are trained to a really high standard. Selection was also really important. So the team really thought about who do we target for the selection process as coaches, and also who do we target as our audience, our key audience for coaching once the people are trained. So for the initial target demographic for selection of our coaches was 50% senior staff. So the original intent was to have 50% of people that were wing commanders and above. And that was so that we were tapping into that influential decision-making base. So we really wanted it to gain traction. Natalie, you might remember on the first few courses, there was quite a few FEG commanders, so Force Element Group commanders, commanding officers of units, and then other people within positions of influence across Air Force. There was quite a few of them.
I do remember, and I do also remember the huge learning curve to download all the acronyms, the Air Force acronyms that I needed to, in order to be able to have conversations with them as well. So it was a huge learning curve, but it really was a great opportunity to learn about the organisation very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I can tell that you speak our language, Natalie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it came to the initial demographics for selection of coaches, the other 50%, what they looked for was senior NCO, so sergeants through to squadron leaders, and other like high quality members within that rank group. So it was really important for us to get coaches across all of the training schools. Because like I said, we wanted to embed coaching across the organisation. And for that, it was found to be really, I lost my AirPod. It was really important to get the instructors at a lot of our training schools trained up with those coaching skills. So within a few courses, we got lots of people from 1RTU and OTS, which are our initial military training schools. And then also a lot of people from the employment training schools. So the Air Academy, which trains our pilots. We've got, we had the admin and logistics schools, the security and fire schools, air traffic school. There was instructors from all across Air Force, and that's been another like key success factor for us. We also targeted people who already had coaching or training experience because we wanted some people to be able to hit the ground running. and then just other people who had the potential to be really great coaches and really great facilitators. So they were the people that we targeted initially. We also looked at how can we force multiply it really quickly. So we wanted coaching to spread throughout the organisation and really change the way people communicate. So we found that the Coaching 101, so the one-day coaching workshops, were really important, and that allowed our trained coaches to go out and hit a critical mass of people with exposure to coaching style conversations. And that's been a massive success factor for us as well. So like I said, 53% of our people across Air Force have completed this coaching conversations workshop, which is a really great milestone. Of which, Nat, I think you had some input in the early days to how that might be structured. You gave us a hand, I believe.
Yeah, we had quite a few conversations about what were the core skills that if we were going to roll out, I think they're called the top 5. So if we're going to roll out the top 5 skills, what would they actually be? That were the great conversations in the early days as well. And as you mentioned, Anita, all of these enablers that you've implemented, the coaching courses, the 101 courses, they're all underpinning and supporting the Air Force strategies. So coaching was all about linking through to the Air Force strategy.
Yeah, that's right. And we thought about, does it need to be written into Air Force strategy specifically, or does it just need to empower it? Because we found that coaching isn't specifically written into it, except for the leadership companion. However, it really does support the aims and the intent of the Air Force strategy. And for us, that was the most important thing.
Mm. And could you tell us a little bit about organisational artefacts? So organisational artefacts, from a theory point of view, they're the things that we see that are visible around the organisation that tell us that we might have coaching here at the organisation. I remember walking in to one of the courses and there were posters up on the wall, and I was so impressed to see those. So could you tell us about some of the ways that you've supported the implementation of coaching via the organisational artefacts?
Yeah, so with the artifacts, like you say, there's posters. So we've got an Air Force leadership coaching website, and that's embedded within the Air Force Adaptive Culture website, so the cultural change area. So we've got quite a few pages on there where we have resources that help support units. We've got a lot of pages there that are specifically for coaches. There's posters. And we also have a lot of our coaches that go out regularly and are just generally out there influencing among the units. So they're part of sort of little physical artifacts, going out there every single day and talking the talk for coaching.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point too, because the coaches are actually getting out there and coaching. There's one-on-one coaching going on now, and the commanding officers coaching. And Jody actually asks an interesting question, Anita, if I might pick it up. She says, do you find that Air Force coaches are sought out in the same way that external coaches are?
Yeah, look, I believe they are. One of our challenges at the moment is that there's still some stigma out there that coaching is to manage underperformance. Which it really isn't. As you might agree, Natalie, the coaching is great for underperformers, but it's also there for the high performers and just everyone out there. So I think some people aren't seeking out coaches because they have that stigma. Yet I do hear that quite a few of our coaches are very busy and have to defer clients to other coaches because they can't take on any more coachees. So yeah, that they are being used. However, we'd always like to see that, that take up even more.
Thank you. So you've mentioned these. Are you happy to move on to the achievements now then?
Yeah, actually one more thing on the framework. So one thing I found, so like I said, I wasn't in the team at the very start. So a lot of the hard work was done to set up the framework by Paul, Steve and Shelley and a few others. I was on the first in-house Cert 4 course, and then I became part of the team when I harassed Steve and Shelley time and time again, saying, please, can I come join the team? Once I joined the team, It was already up and running, and my job was to help it grow and leverage the hard work that the others had put in at the start. I must say, I didn't reflect too much on the framework when I joined, and I didn't really look at it for quite some time. However, when I did stop and reflect on it, and where the Air Force journey had taken us, because they'd set up the framework at the start, we'd pretty much hit all of the key points. We just had to tweak a few things. So reflection didn't happen for me for a little while into it, but it worked well because of all the initial hard work that was put in.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as I can see, we've hit every single one of those zones, including a project that you're about to embark on, which is the actually evaluation. So we've done one piece of evaluation about how is coaching working and where's it working, but you're going to embark on another evaluation of the coaching and just see how far we've come as well.
Yeah, that's true, Nat. So, on the evaluation piece, so every single Coaching 101 participant is sent an evaluation survey within a week of completing the workshop, which is fantastic. I recently went back over the 2019 compiled results, and a lot of the feedback was fantastic. Just a few little things to tweak. Our coaches did a survey late last year, and then this week we finally have approval to send out a survey to all the unit commanders. So with Air Force units being our key stakeholders, we really want to know what's working for them, what isn't working, what they might need from us, and where they see the program and where they need the program going into the future so that we can support Air Force units. So really looking forward to getting those results in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anita, we've got a question here from Vanessa as well around the matching of coaches. So she asks, how do individuals choose their coaches, or are coaches designated to different groups? So would you give us a little bit of a background as to how, what you've actually set up to enable that matching process?
Yeah, so actually that's a really great question, and it's one that we've discussed time and time again across a whole range of groups within Air Force coaching, and I've had the conversation with yourself as well, Natalie. So the way Air Force run it is that we have, on our website, we have a Find a Coach webpage, and it's dedicated to all of the different Air Force coaches across the country, and it lists their name, their rank, their location. And then anyone across Air Force can then contact that person and say, I've seen your name on the website. I'd really love it if you could coach me. Or can we have a conversation to check that you're the right coach for me? So there's no requirement that ranks are matched up or genders are matched up. And I don't actually hook people up as coaches and coachees. People are welcome to just go to that website and find a coach. So we're empowering the system so that it doesn't need a central point. People can go and find a coach themselves. We also have the Air Force Talent Management Program, and in that way we do narrow down the coaches that are offered, and that's because the Talent Management Program is there for, at the moment, our main audience is Air Force unit commanders. So when people get posted into a new command position, they're offered to be part of the talent management program. And for that, we give them an option of 3 very experienced coaches, and then they choose which one of those 3 that they'd like to be their coach. And that's as far as the matching goes.
Yeah, so I think the important point you said there is that Air Force is, focused on a force multiplier. So how do we multiply this out across the organisation? And if it's dependent on any single person or any single part of the system, then it might actually break down. So enabling people to take responsibility and accountability for choosing their coaches and putting their hand up to be coached in the first place is an important part of the process, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and for a coaching session to be really successful, you need to have rapport and a high level of trust with that person. So we find that if we allocate who the coach is going to be for that person, it may not work because they may not have that rapport and level of trust. So we leave it up to them.
Yeah, we've got one more question before we move on, and someone's asked about team coaching. And could you share with us some of the extent to which team coaching or teams are being coached at the moment?
Yeah, so team coaching is, it hasn't been a focus of ours, but we heard some good reviews late last year around some team coaching that was done at one squadron up at Amberley, one of the jet squadrons. And it's not something that came through us because, like I said, we try and empower our coaches to, as long as they're working within the lane of coaching, they're free to go out and innovate and improve their work areas, and they don't always need to get permission from us. So Patch and some of the people up at Amberley went out and did we had a session of team coaching for the one squadron, I think it was the engineering team. And I'd have to get Patch to talk to specifically how it was done, but the results were fantastic. The reviews were so good that we put an article in the Air Force newspaper about it. I think there's probably a lot of other pockets of team coaching, but it's not it's not something that is closely held by us. We just empower our coaches to go out and do it.
Yeah, and Ian has given us a great prompt too. He says, I hear you have coaching hubs. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, so actually that's a really great lead in for the next area, which is all the achievements. So things that we're proud of, milestones that we've hit. So if we go to the next slide. So firstly, Nat, I'll talk about what I call the administrative achievements, and then we'll move on to some of the real life impacts, because I see them as two different things. So we've now got 208 trained coaches through the Cert4 program that we did in-house. I think out of that, there's about 180 that have finished the program and are now what we call accredited. The one-day coaching skills workshop that I spoke about, it's gone out to a large portion of the Air Force. So that's a significant milestone. So it's now reached 53% of the Air Force. So roughly 7,300 people. So in the last 5 years, the last 4 years, our coach facilitators have been incredibly busy to be able to reach over 7,000 people, something that I'm very proud of them for. Absolutely. Like I said, we chose well, and they're really dedicated and passionate people. And an extrapolation of that, we before all the current self-isolation rules come in, we did have a trajectory that we might hit 100% of Air Force in 2022. However, that's going to slow down right now. Some of the other achievements is that from the start, the team that were there at the beginning got the support from our senior leaders. So most of the force element groups across Air Force have released directives around coaching. So it's that top-down approach, and leading by example, that our senior leaders are supportive of coaching and they can see value in it. So that's really helped for people to embrace it across the whole Air Force.
It's just amazing when you think about it, that number of people in really a relatively short period of time when we think about it.
Oh yeah, whenever I think about the 7,000 people that have done coaching skills training, it sort of blows me away. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another achievement or success that we've had is that coaching has been integrated across a lot of the Air Force training establishments. Like I said at the start, there's our initial military training, our employment training units have embraced it, and it's also been included in the Aircrew Performance Enhancement Program. So the PEP program, all of the aircrew across Air Force experience the PEP program, and it has components of coaching, mental health, and a range of other things. And they're really seeing a difference with it. So I hear great reviews about the PEP program. We don't manage the PEP program, but our Air Force coaches have been part of producing that program. And another achievement is that, like I said, the talent management program. So a lot of our COs are being coached by Air Force leadership coaches, and they're also using the 360-degree disc profiling tool and working with our new COs to make sure that they can be the best that they can be in their roles. It's also by the COs receiving coaching. it's also leading by example and showing people across their units that coaching is beneficial. Now, a key achievement, earlier we spoke about the personnel performance system. So Air Force has the performance review system that has to be done every single year. So coaching is now embedded within that system. And that was done really early on by someone that was on that first coaching course with me. And that's a massive achievement. So even people across Air Force that don't realise that they're working within a coaching framework are doing it when they are part of that performance review every single year. And I think that's the beauty of it. Even if people don't identify that they're being coached or are using coaching skills, we create change across the Air Force when people just change their behaviours and change their language. And that's what we're after.
Yes, and Vanessa's actually saying congratulations, because the approach in terms of enrolling leaders or enrolling influential people, it starts to show about how then you roll out to 53% of the workforce. It's just, we keep talking about the force multiplier effect, and it's amazing over time just what's possible then.
Oh, totally. And a couple of other call outs that I'd like to make to some of our Air Force coaches that is some of the high performance coaching programs. So Miles Clark at the Air Warfare Centre has created an amazing formal program for the Air Warfare Centre based around high performance coaching, which is just incredible what he's been doing there. And then Don and the team at Ambly have also created more of an informal high performance workshop. And again, that comes down to, providing some structure and then empowering our coaches to go out and do wonderful things, which they have been. So now there's some of our, what I call administrative successes. They look fantastic on paper, yet they don't guarantee behavioural change, although I expect they do. So in order to find out what's going on at the coalface and what's really happening with behavioural change, I went to the top. And this week, Air Commodore Greg Frazina, who is the commander of Air Force Training Group, recorded a short video for us to celebrate International Coaching Week. So Air Force Training Group and what Air Commodore Frazina is in charge of, what it does is train all of the Air Force members and some from Navy, Army and overseas forces. It includes initial military training as well as employment training for job-specific skills. And that includes ground skills and flying training for aircrew. So how about we have a listen to what Air Commodore Frazina has to say and the difference that it's made to Air Force Training Group.
Thank you. We'll play the video now.
G'day all, and welcome to Coaching Week. I'm Air Commodore Greg Frazina, Commander Air Force Training Group, and I'm an Air Force Leadership Coach, qualified Cert 4 since May 2018. At Air Force Training Group, we've embedded the coaching techniques across the FEG to enhance our instructor effectiveness and to improve our student performance. Coaching for us is all about asking the right questions at the right time, setting goals, diversifying thought, and resolving ambiguity. At 1RTU, instructors receive Coaching 101 to enhance the student consolidation in their learning towards the latter part of the course. At OTS, students and instructors receive Coaching 101 to improve their problem-solving techniques. While at the Air Academy, coaching techniques are embedded in their performance enhancement program. We've seen a 10 to 15% increase in our graduation rates, so we know it works. So during Coaching Week, set a goal, resolve your ambiguity. If you don't know how, go to our website and find a coach. We'll help you. G'day.
And if you're listening, sir, thank you very much for sending in the video. It's greatly appreciated.
It sure is. It's great. I was holding my breath, Anita, hoping it would play, and it has. So I'm delighted to hear from Fritz. It's great.
Yeah. So I found that amazing to hear that Air Force Training Group can say that graduation rates have gone up 10 to 15%. Now, I have heard over the years that there's a range of programs that have been implemented, and coaching is one of them. So we can't necessarily say that coaching is the sole driver of that 10 to 15%, but it's definitely part of changes that have been made, and it's making a difference.
I think that's an important point you make, actually, because when we think about return on investment, um, we can't claim the entire change because there's so many variables that actually influence the success of training programs, as we know. But we can claim a little bit of it. Like, the coaching was implemented and was highly successful in terms of the implementation. So it's great to be able to think about the different variables that actually contributed to that success, as you say.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you, Commodore Fresina. Like I said, so there's
Make sure I don't play him again. I'll just tab us forward.
G'day all.
Oh, hang on, sorry.
Welcome
Sorry, I'm just going to tab us forward. Here we go. So are you thinking about moving on to the challenges now?
Yeah, so with any great successful program, there's always challenges along the way, right? So, yeah, some of our, probably our biggest challenge has been we've got a really geographically diverse network. So the Air Force is across all of Australia. So it creates challenges. So we train people and then we send them out to their regions and we hope they do a great job. And most of them have done amazing things. So, and then additionally to that, so I live and work in the United Arab Emirates and I have done for the last 2 years. So we're really geographically dispersed. But the way that we've overcome it is that we chose the right people from the start. We train them, we've given them structure, and then we empowered them to create change within their own environments. And that's what they've done. So it's been a challenge, but setting it up right at the start has meant that it's worked beautifully. So they've got all the information they need on the website. They know who to contact. There's a clear accreditation process for our coaches and progression information. And we give them regular updates via newsletters. We give them professional development and keep them updated with ICF changes as needed. And then actually Ian asked a question about coaching hubs. So this has been a really great way that we can overcome the challenge of being so dispersed across the country. So each region has what we've called a coaching hub. And it's simply where the coaches in each region get together at a time frame that suits them. Often we hear it's probably about every 6 to 8 weeks. And they get together as a little hub of coaching best practice in the region. They provide professional development to each other. They can self-coach to enhance their skills. They talk about what they can do around their regions to bring coaching into the base and the units, and talk about what their personal challenges and successes have been. So that's probably been one of our great successes, is in the regions where the coaching hubs have been active. And they're the ones that we see a lot of innovation from and a lot of action. Another thing that's a bit of a challenge for us is the posting cycle. So, you know, any military force, people get posted around every 2 to 3 years. Some of those people stay in location and they just change jobs, and others get posted to a whole different new locations. So when we select people for specific units so that we can really embed change, you know, it's possible that a year or two later that they're posted out. So what do we do about it? We've been lucky that thought about it ahead of time, that we chose influential people that while they were there in the unit, they really worked hard to create change. And with those coaching 101 conversations workshops, they upskilled people within their area so that even when they left, there was still that coaching mindset across the whole unit. Also, we keep in touch with key units, and before each Cert 4 workshop, we touch base with them and we find out what their posting schedule is likely to be, and we try and backfill those people whenever we can. So we try and work with the key units.
And Anita, just for the people on the line that don't understand about posting, this is actually potentially like the commanding officer of the actual area moving on to a new posting, moving on to a new area. So if that person was passionate about coaching beforehand, the challenge is, what's the next commander going to be like? Are they going to pursue coaching? Are they not? Have they got a different agenda? That's the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, it can be anyone from the commanding officer who runs a unit down to anyone across the unit. So we've got people at all levels, all rank levels, that have been the key drivers of success among units. So, you know, we've had an LAC who's in rank fairly junior, who's done some great things around Air Force. We've got a sergeant in Townsville, Anthea, who was running the coaching hubs and was driving cultural change around Townsville. Anthea then left, so then we had to find other people around Townsville that would pick up where she left off. So it could be the CO, but it could be pretty much anyone across the unit.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to just focus on the commanding officers, because you're right. It was about champions across the entire organisation, across ranks of the organisation, and whenever any of the champions get posted, that can create a challenge for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's been an interesting thing to learn, that it does. Yeah, the champions can be anyone. Now, I'm looking at the time, so why don't we move on to why I think it works for Air Force.
Thank you.
Now, a lot of these things we have actually spoken about throughout the webinar, but I'd just like to highlight them because they're things that stand out for me as what's made it successful. So now, as you know, I'm a huge advocate of coaching, yet we are a military force. We've got a chain of command, we've got rank structure, and we're involved in operational deployments. Coaching is one tool to develop and empower our people, and we use a lot of other styles when we need them. Yet, even within that framework, coaching still is proving to be successful when it's appropriate. The reason it has been is that balance of framework and trust. So we've set the framework up for coaching across Air Force, and we've ticked, like you said, I think pretty much all of those boxes on the coaching culture framework. But we also empower and trust the coaches to go out and do the right thing. So that's why it's worked. We don't control everything they do. We let them go out and be the passionate and, you know, determined people that they are. So it's a big reason why it's been successful. The coaching hubs, like we spoke about, have proven to be a main driver of success. We've empowered the coaches in each region to get together and run their region. They touch base with us and talk about what they might want to do when they need to, but we empower them and trust them to do the right thing. Another big reason why it's successful is that the framework includes standards. Even though we empower our people and trust them to do the right thing, there's still standards within that. So we have the expression of interest for selection. And for coaches that go out there and are facilitating our training workshops, there's a clear progression. So they have to work with senior, or not senior, but they work with experienced facilitators who then have to sign them off as accredited to facilitate our workshops. So there's standards the whole way through. And all of our coaches follow we have our own Air Force Leadership Coaching Code of Ethics. And thanks to Anna who set that up for us. And it's all based on the ICF Code of Ethics. And importantly, the other reason is that our journey has followed the coaching culture framework, with a big one being top-down culture. So there's been support from senior levels as well as junior levels the whole way through. So they're probably the big reasons why it's been successful for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. So we've got a couple of other questions here. I think we have time to pick them up, Anita, if you're willing.
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. So we've got a question here from Jodie, an interesting one. She said, Air Force will have some very unique work decisions and challenges. So how do the coaches keep their own headspace in check? How do they look after themselves in terms of unique work decisions and challenges versus being able to coach as well?
Yeah, good point. So all of our coaches are coaches in a secondary role. So they all have their primary role. You know, they're pilots, they're admin clerks, they're firefighters or cooks or whatever it might be. So they all have their main role, and they do this on the side because they love what they do. Throughout the Cert 4 course, you know, we speak a lot about maintaining your headspace and putting on your different hat when you're coaching versus when you're doing your primary role. we found that the coaching hubs are a great way for the coaches to get together and talk about things like that. It's a way of downloading and looking after each other and talking through what those challenges are and how to overcome it.
Yeah, absolutely. And another question that was asked earlier, actually, and I've been holding it because it kind of relates to anchoring. So Jodie asks, in terms of change management models such as Kotter's 8-step program, it looks like Air Force moved through the creating and communicating phases and is somewhere deep in the action phases of implementation. So she's asking, what do you see as the next steps to anchor the change, and what might be some of the challenges around that?
Yeah, another good one, and that's at the forefront of our minds right now. So we're working through that right now. So, and that's where our survey to all of our key stakeholders is coming in. So we're about to send that out to all of the unit commanders to say, what's going on for you? What do you need? What has worked and what hasn't? And what do you need from us in the future? So we're in the review phase, and then depending on what comes out of that, then we'll make an informed decision about what the next steps are.
And that also answers Vanessa's question also. She's asking about how you share the changes that coaching makes. Is it measured, or do you have a baseline for collecting data? So that's what that program or that initiative is all about at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And how we communicate that. So there's a newsletter. So I send out regular emails to the network. Some of them, hopefully, if you're online, hopefully it's not too many for you. But I also set up a newsletter that other people contribute to, and it's a way of keeping everyone in the loop about what's happening across the country and different things that they might need to know. So the newsletter is a way that we work with our geographically dispersed workforce and keep everyone involved, like engaged and up to date.
I think the other thing that's interesting is so many of the amazing stories that have come out about people who have been coached themselves and the difference it's made. So they're making a difference, I think, to themselves. They're making a difference to their families and the people around them, and those conversations you can have just over a beer or something like that. And then it's about, I've coached someone else is being coached, and how that spreads out. So we can measure, I think, return on investment in a lot of different ways, the impact it's having on individuals, but then the impact that individuals have on others throughout Air Force as well.
Oh, no, it's so true. So, we call it workplace coaching and leadership coaching, but, actually, can you hear me? I think my AirPods just dropped out.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. It must just be a warning. Yeah, so you're so right. We call it workplace coaching, but it's the skills that we learn through coaching are relevant across all areas of our life. So, for myself as a parent, coaching has changed the way I parent and has changed my life basically. So, it's not just the one-on-one coaching conversations. It's, just those general coaching conversations across every aspect of our life.
Yeah, and I think we've been, you and I have been talking recently about coaching kids and the application of coaching kids right now in different environments that they're facing.
That's right. The world has changed. It's gone all crazy, hasn't it? But yeah, coaching is a perfect tool right now to help people through all the changes.
Absolutely. Were there other things you wanted to add to, Anita? I'm just making sure that we maximise our value with you. Other thoughts you wanted to share?
No, that pretty much covers it. But my key point is that the success that the Air Force coaching program has had is because of the passion and determination of a large group of people. So, framework is important, yet choosing the right people and empowering them and trusting them has probably been the key driver of success. The people of all our individual coaches have gone out there and done such amazing things and changed the Air Force so much more than the program hub in Canberra and myself, so much more than we could have done, because these people are out there and have done amazing things.
Yeah, and there's so many great stories just about, recruits who were out there training in the rain. And I remember hearing one story where someone said, well, what's different about that? Recruits always are out there training in the rain and running their drills. And they said, oh, what's different is there's no skills instructor out there. There's no MSI out there. They've organised themselves. They've decided that they need to do more training. They're out there in the rain. And I think they were some of the early signs of people taking responsibility and accountability, and some of the early changes that we saw in the training areas anyway.
Yeah, that's right. And and I asked the question as well at the start, saying, how is it working at 1RTU, for example, which is the initial military training? How does that work with military training? How does coaching fit? And I was told by the instructors that they bring coaching in slowly across time, but out of a 10-week course, it's mainly around week 6 and onwards, where the recruits have the skills, that they've learned the skill set. They just need the confidence and the ownership to take those skills forward and really excel in the last part of the course. So it's not used at the start, because at the start it's important to give them the skills from scratch, but it's slowly worked in across time and used at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson too. So coaching is not the panacea or the silver bullet or anything like that for Air Force. It's one of the broad range of tools and capabilities that you actually access at the right time for the right people.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. And Natalie, I'd like to thank you. You've been on the journey with us the whole way. And, thank you for all the conversations that we have where I need to bounce ideas off you. So thank you.
Pleasure. Absolutely been a pleasure. Well, thank you. Well, Anita, it's been an absolute pleasure, listening and learning from you. And I really appreciate you being able to take us back to the coaching cultural framework. I think this is a great example of how there's one thing to come up with a framework, but it's a whole other thing to actually look at what does it look like in real life. So you and I are both practitioners. We're about making this real, and what's the point if we can't implement? So I think you taking us back to the actual implementation within Air Force and hitting on those the coaching cultural framework as a structure has been really, really valuable. So I want to say thank you again. Thank you for joining us on Coach Week, Anita. And I know it's early in the morning for you there. So just on behalf of everyone, thank you so much.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. And although it's 10 a.m. here, you're the second webinar this morning. So Air Force, we're running our own International Coaching Week program as well. So we've got a range of 5 webinars across the week, and Simon and Jet ran the first one this morning, and did a fantastic job. So we're very busy like you this week, trying to bring coaching to all of Air Force.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of our Air Force coaches are actually leading that program, and I'm looking forward to listening to the recordings actually, because I always love to, absolutely love to listen to the recordings and hear.
I can hook you up.
Yeah, that sounds great. Fantastic. Well, on behalf of everyone, Anita, on behalf of Open Door Coaching, and on behalf of Synergy Global, and everyone listening on the line, there's a lot of people listening on the line. Thank you so much to you. And thank you for everything you're doing in terms of inspiring coaching at Air Force and helping lead the way there, and keeping the momentum going that was started initially.
Thank you, Nat.
Thank you. We'll say goodbye for now.
Okay, bye.